seven-headed dragon, the serpent that rules over everything, can be seen saturating the cultures of this world. The Maya god, Ahuachapat, which is translated serpent with seven heads, was similar to Chikmoto. The Indians of Southern California worshipped a seven-headed serpent. The Pima Indians worshipped a seven-headed serpent. You can go down to Mississippi area and find along the Mississippi River a great 300-foot serpent with the symbol of the cobra and great mounds in the ground and a convolution of 7 convolutions. It was the universal worship of the serpent all the way down through the centuries. I've been to Oslo and walked under the arch of one of those Scandinavian churches of the Vikings, and the entire arch is made up of the carvings of a writhing serpent with wings. And I've seen the Quetzalcoatl and Kukulkan of the Mexicans and the Mayans and the Peruvians. And I've been to Egypt, and there, as you go into Hatshepsut's temple tomb, you'll find 2 great serpents on either side with wings, and their bodies convolute all the way up to the inner sanctuary. And you can go to Chichen Itza today, and there you can see the temple with the serpents going all the way up to the temple up above, which represents heaven. Everywhere you go, especially Egypt, where the serpent represents the soul, and the serpent represents the deities of heaven, everything is represented by that serpent. It's the most amazing thing that this entire world is saturated with the belief in the ancient serpent god. Lucifer, that old devil, the serpent, the dragon, knows that the best way that he can destroy mankind is over the issue of death. He lied to man in Eden that he could live forever, and now men look at death with the hope of life afterwards. Now, every one of us is going to face that grave someday. All the way through the centuries, when men lost contact with their loved ones, the wail of suffering has gone up. This is the greatest motivation in the heart of man. And then when each one of us look in the mirror and we see the wrinkles forming and we see the gray hairs forming, we know that we're dying while we're alive. Our bodies are dying. Every one of us face the grave. All the way through the centuries, then, leaders, intelligent men, researchers have tried to delve into the mysteries beyond the grave and understand something of what happens there. They've tried to make contact with spirits beyond the grave, anything to find out where they could get a hold of the power. And so when you go into ancient pagan cult worship that revolves around the sun god, it all revolves around the worship of this life-giving energy that somehow man would somehow have the ability to contact God and get this power. The picture on the screen right now is the Egyptian god of the dead, Serapis. And notice that although he's the god of the dead, and these people used to eat little white circular cakes that were dedicated to this god in the belief that somehow they could get that god's power inside of them to give them more life. Look at the top of his head. He has a hat, and on it is a little branch that's budding. So the god of the dead, the destroyer, the one who's in charge of the grave, is also worshipped in the pagan world as the life giver. The whole concept of makeup was the idea that the spirits of the dead would come back to a priest, a shaman, or a witch doctor. And the witch doctor would direct the people to paint themselves up to look like this spirit in order to pay homage to it, to gain power from it. Now this picture here, a symbol of a copy of some of the ornaments that were used in Babylon, indicates the idea that these people would make 3-dimensional images of the gods of the heavens in order to placate them or gain their power in sympathetic magic for the purpose of life, for the purpose of escaping suffering and sickness. Now, if you look at this picture here, this is offering the children to the god Moloch in the land of Canaan. Here, this this image the hands would be heated up red hot, and they would lay the living babies on it, and they would play loud music to hide the screams so the parents wouldn't feel as bad. But the thing was, they were hoping that the energy released at the death of this baby would release forces that would guarantee fertility and guarantee blessings from God. So this dragon god is a symbol of the devil, who in every age has been looked to as the life giver, the serpent god. In the Roman Church, they have duplicated the universal idea of receiving life through eating the wafer. That wafer is in the shape of the sun god, the symbol of the life-giving power of the serpent god. Because the Roman Church grew to such tremendous power during the Middle Ages, so much of the research had to be done in the mysteries by the secret societies. In some of the old castles, men who worshiped the ancient Kabbalic rites of the Jews worshiped them secretly for fear of persecution. And other men that delved into other areas of witchcraft and communication with the dead had to do it secretly or they would be persecuted. For at that time, the Roman Church taught that communication with the dead was her area alone. And even to this day, she believes that instantaneous contact with the dead is to be in the veil of the Roman Church. So the real history of the occult during the centuries of the Middle Ages can be found primarily and only in the secret societies. Some of these societies would kiss a symbol of a goat god or the devil and would be initiated into the belief of the immortality of the soul and contact with the dead. Terrible oaths were accepted to keep the people from revealing what they were learning in these secret societies. In Masonry, which today is one of the most prominent of these secret societies, they utilize the Bible and make it appear to the initiate that this is a Christian religion or a Jewish religion. But when one gets into it, take for instance the teaching that it originated in Solomon's temple. They find out very soon that what the Masons are referring to here is that this temple is the temple of soul man, or the sun god, the life giver. The worship is the same as that of ancient Babylon. On the wall you see this five-pointed star. It's an indication from their own writings that they take their initiation before a symbol of Satan. The symbols here on these Masonic staffs show that they worship the sun, the moon, and the stars. No matter where you're initiated, whether up the right side of these stairs or the left side, whether you come from the Jews, the Arabic line of Masonry, or whether you come from the Protestant line, no matter what, you'll be initiated into the mysteries of nature. When these people in the secret societies, whether Rosicrucian, whether Masonic, whether Jewish Kabbalistic rites, when they say our Father, that God is not the true God. They're holding the hand of a false God, and their Father is not the Father in the Bible, but it is that old dragon, the serpent, and Satan. We've briefly mentioned the fall of Lucifer, his use of the lie that man will live after death to create in man a craving to understand what happens after the grave, and through that deceptive medium to set himself up as the God of this world. We saw the rise of false Christianity and her connection with the life after death. And then we watched the rise of the secret societies who continued the experimentation into the occult and witchcraft and the world of the dead. But how is it that the occult and witchcraft is so prominent in our world today? We have to go back to the middle of the 19th century. There in a small house in Hydesville, New York, the Fox sisters.